told, right? So the illustration there, the image on the right of the screen shows a graphic that's been circulated frequently. And this particular graphic here has it placed right next to an incline bench showing various degrees of incline. And it says, set your bench angle between 30 and 45 degrees to work your chest. And why do they say that? Because the graphic there has a dark blue line saying 30-degree upper chest and 45-degree upper chest. Okay, let's look at this graphic a little closer. So I put the green arrow there to show that's supposedly the shoulder joint. Okay, so the line that is straight across from the shoulder joint is a flat press, flat fry. And what they say there is it's overall chest. The two lines below that are lower chest, the two lines above that are upper chest. And the line that goes straight up there, they say shoulders, like military press. Okay, so clearly that dot is supposed to be the shoulder joint. Okay, now if you look at that, you think, all right, we've been told this for so many years, we don't question it. But put that dot on somebody's shoulder joint and look what it looks like. You can see that the flat press lines up with the upper pecs. The lower lines line up with the pectoral fibers that are below the clavicle. But the lines that are moving in the inclined direction don't line up to anything that's pectoral related. This is factual. This is not, I'm not making this stuff up. Look, if we had been designed with our arm sockets right in the middle between the highest and the lowest part of the pectorals, then there would be something to move down toward and something to move up toward. But that's not how we were designed. We were designed with all of our pectoral fibers below our shoulder joint, probably because we evolved from a quadruped and moved progressively more upright into bipedalism. But we never ever had to accommodate an incline angle press historically of any kind. There'd be no reason to adapt to that. Now, here, what I'm showing is that if you're on an incline bench, your arms must go above the shoulder line. And the reason they must go above the shoulder line is because you must push directly opposite gravity. Gravity is vertical. It's pulling straight down. Gravity is pulling at a 6 o'clock direction. You must move directly opposite gravity, which is a 12 o'clock direction. There's just no way that you can then take your arm toward your sternum. You're moving it toward your neck or toward your chin. It's inevitable. So what I've done here is I've placed a figure here at a 30-degree angle, assuming there's an inclined bench there, it's set at 30 degrees. And the blue line that's there is the direction his arms would move on an inclined press because it's vertical. You can see that is above all the pectoral fibers. It is literally crossing the lower part of his neck. Now the A arrow there that I have, that's what I call a slight decline angle. The B arrow is the extreme decline angle. Those are both good. The A arrow is better, but the B arrow is still good. The arrow that doesn't have a letter above the A shows a flat press. That's not quite as good because you're hitting fewer fibers, but certainly the blue one is completely away from any pectoral fibers. Here's a couple of illustrations that show you from a slightly different angle. Okay, so the image on the far left, what I've done is I've taken that white arrow and I've started it right at his pectoral insertion on his humerus. And he's moving it straight forward on a flat bench. And you can see it's going straight to the highest pectoral fibers on his sternum and the clavicular fibers. Now, the one in the middle there, I'm moving it into an inclined angle. You can see it is not moving consistent with any pectoral fibers. It is far above the clavicular fibers. The image on the far right is a slight decline angle moving toward the center of the sternum, which is slightly below the shoulder joint. That's where the greatest number of pectoral fibers are situated, and that is the wisest angle to move your arms. A little bit closer look. The flat direction, the inclined direction, and the slight decline direction. Again, let's use our eyes. Let's use our logic. Let's not be dogmatic and refuse to look at the evidence of what's actually happening when you do an incline, a flat, a decline. Let's look at this and not be deniers. All right. So in addition to the arms not moving toward the upper pectoral muscles origins when you're doing an incline press, the line of force is also not aligned with the upper pecs. Okay, so let me explain to you what that illustration is. Imagine that you took a rope and you threw it over a tree branch, brought the other end down, tied a weight to both ends, and stood back. Obviously, the weight is being pulled in a 6 o'clock direction. If you then climbed up onto the tree and put a little scale underneath various parts of the rope, you would find that the greatest downward force from that weight is at the 12 o'clock position. That is the line of force, directly opposite resistance. If you were to measure, let's say, the 10 o'clock position or the 2 o'clock position, you would find significantly less load there than at the 12 o'clock position. Less still at 9 and 3 o'clock, obviously, right? So the line of force the line of force determines what muscle gets the load and what muscle does not, period. It's not the direction of your movement that determines that. It's the direction of the resistance that determines where the load is going. Let's look at it from a slightly different angle. So imagine that this man represents resistance, and he's pulling on your body, and he's pulling in a direction that is 7:30 on a clock. The load will be on the 130 muscle. Whatever muscle is at 130 will be the most loaded. So if your target muscle, because you didn't think this thing through, is positioned at 12 o'clock or at 3 o'clock, it will not be getting the majority of the load. Whatever muscle is positioned directly opposite the resistance in the line of force will be what is most loaded, whether you want it to be that way or not. It's physics, right? This is just fact. Another way of looking at this, if you stood in front of a mirror, you took a barbell, let's just say you took just for the sake of demonstration, you took a 50-pound barbell, right? If you took a 200-pound barbell, you'd never be able to do this. If you faced a mirror and pushed the barbell toward the mirror, you'd be doing this motion that in most cases would be considered a chest movement, a chest exercise. However, your pectoral muscle would not be the least bit loaded doing it this way. Why? Because they're not in the line of force. The shoulders are directly opposite the downward force. So as you press out, this thing wants to fall down, and you'd be working like crazy to keep this bar from falling forward because they are directly in the line of force, not the pectorals. Conversely, if you were to lie down on your back, now you're loading the pecs. Why? You're doing the same movement. What's the change? The direction of resistance, or your body relative to the direction of resistance. Now, the 6 o'clock direction of resistance is loading whatever is at 12 o'clock. And that would be, in this case, the upper pectoral fibers. So now what I've done here is made it a little bit more graphic so you can really get it. So here is a man on his back on a flat bench. The shoulder joint is the fulcrum, right? So that's where the line of force is determined, right? Gravity is pulling 6 o'clock. Directly in the line of force, as you can see, there is the upper pectoral fibers, right? Now, let's turn him on an incline bench. You can see now that line of force would line up with his neck muscles, but his neck muscles are not connected to his arms. So they can't, you're not loading the neck muscles. You're actually not loading anything more than the front deltoids at that point, right? Are the pectoral muscles helping? Are they participating at all? Yes, they probably are participating. Again, it goes back to that clock I showed you. They're not in the 10 o'clock position. They're in the 1 o'clock position. They're off to the side a little bit. Yes, they get some load, but not the majority of the load. Now I've turned this man into a slight decline angle. This is a 15 to 20 degree angle. You can see the line of force now places the resistance in the middle of his sternum, where the greatest number of pectoral fibers are located. Again, it's not the movement that determines which muscle fibers are activated. It is the direction of resistance that determines which muscles are, well, I shouldn't say activated, but loaded. Okay, it's the line of force.